We are here for the Council on Developmental Services monthly meeting, February 20th, 2025. And we will, I think we have a few members here from the public. So we can go ahead and start with public participation. So again, if you could just say your name and if you're with an organization, let us know. And I believe it's 3 minutes to speak, I think. Okay. Is there anybody who would like to speak? Oh, I think that's Adrian. Hang on, guys. Hello? It's in the agenda. Did you get the agenda? Yes.
Patty, this is Shannon Giacovino, DDS Ombudsperson. I will forward the link to Adrian.
Adrian, Shannon's going to forward to you, okay? Yep, bye. Okay, sorry about that, guys. All right. Okay, so if there's a member from the public who would like to speak?
The Jordan Chef Commission, DDS. I thought when Shannon and I talked, folks were coming to maybe say a few words during public comment about supported decision making, and I don't know if Shannon, you wanted to tee that up, or we just wanted them to begin chatting.
So yeah, this is Shannon Giacovino, DDS Ombudsperson. I did send an email out to the council with information about supported decision making. The people here tonight are Jonathan. I don't know if I ever pronounce your name correctly, but Jonathan Martinez or Martinez. Martinez, okay. Jonathan Martinez, who is working with us on supported decision making. I'll let him give you his title, but I think everybody also knows Gretchen Knopf, Carol Scully from the ARC, and is anybody else in the meeting? Fran Trzaski is going to be joining us. Jonathan and Fran are the only two people who are going to be speaking tonight because we're mindful of the council's time. But we wanted to make sure the council knew that there was legislation this session for supported decision making, and we are hoping that the council will decide to support that legislation. So I'll turn it over to you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Shannon, and thank you, members of the council, for hearing us. My name is Jonathan Martinez, and I have been honored to work with the Connecticut Supported Decision-Making Council for some time now. And what they have asked me to do is to talk to you about supported decision-making, what it is, what it isn't, and what, with your help, it could be. What supported decision-making is what you're doing right now. At any point when you have to make a decision, when you are unaware of something, when you are confused about something, what do? You find someone, a friend, a family member, a professional who knows about that subject and ask them for advice or information or to help you find out what you need to know in order to make that decision. So if you're trying to decide whether or not to support a bill or whether or not you should get medical care, or take any step, invest money, invest in a relationship, you might speak with somebody who you can trust, who helps you get the information that you need to understand your options and make that decision. That's supported decision making. And for people without disabilities, we don't call it that because it's so ingrained in who we are. When we ask people for help, when we get support to make our decisions, we call it things like making an informed choice or getting a second opinion or not going off half-cocked. And we are complimented for that. We are told that we're making a wise choice or making a judicious decision or that we're not making a snap judgment. But for people with disabilities, it's been a very different thing for a very long time. What we know about people with disabilities is for as long as there has been laws, and there is research going back a couple of thousand years to the Roman Empire, there has been an assumption that if you have a disability that requires you to get help making a decision, it means you can't make that decision. And inevitably what happens is people are put into guardianship where they can lose their right to make decisions. Now, I am saying loud and clear on behalf of the coalition and myself, you will never hear me or anyone else on the coalition say that guardianship is not an option or should not be an option. People should have the right to seek guardianship. Families should have the opportunity to seek guardianship of their children if that is what their children need and that is what they want to do. We will do nothing to interfere with that, and the bill that is before the legislature now will do nothing to interfere with a parent or a family member or a loved one's right to seek and gain guardianship over their children or someone they care about. What we are asking you to do is what legislatures in more than half the country have already done. In just the last decade, I believe the number is now 29 states, including your neighbors in Massachusetts and New York and other states, have passed laws, and Delaware and Rhode Island have passed laws formally recognizing people's right to choose supported decision making. If a parent wants what I believe someone today, Fran, is going to call a backstop, something to help their child, that does not involve the court. If someone does not need the court in their life, then they should have the ability to choose and have recognized that choice to use supported decision making. In the same way that every single member of the supported decision making coalition would fight for a parent's right to choose guardianship, we are asking you to stand up for parents' right to choose something else, if that is what they want and if that is what their child needs. A backstop that it can be recognized from one end of the state to the other. And that's an important part, and that's where I'm going to finish here, because I'm often asked, and I work in a lot of states, why can't we just do that under the current law? And it's because people don't always recognize the right to use supported decision making when it's not in a law. I had a case in Michigan where a judge said he wanted to recognize the person's right to supported decision making, but there was no law specifically giving him the power to do so. We in Connecticut have spoken with attorneys who have said that they are loath, they are afraid to recommend supported decision making agreements or arrangements for their clients because there is no law specifically recognizing it. So in Connecticut right now, a person's right, a family's right to choose supported decision making can wholly depend upon who they talk to and where they live. Because a judge in one part of the state might recognize it. An organization in another part of the state might recognize it. A lawyer in one part of the state might recognize it. But judges and lawyers and organizations in other parts of the state may never have heard of it, may not recognize it. So right now in Connecticut, your right, your opportunity to use supported decision making, to choose that for your child, can depend upon your zip code. What we're asking you to do is to do what I believe the number is 29 other states have done, to give parents, to give families, to give people with disabilities the choice to seek supported decision making while recognizing, as always, their choice to seek guardianship if that's what they want. I'll be happy to answer any questions now or at any time after this meeting.
Thank you, Jonathan. Patty Silva, Council Chair. Is there anybody else from the public who had anything they wanted to talk about or questions for Jonathan before we move on? And we will come back to Fran once he's able to come onto the meeting because he wanted to speak during the public portion as well. Any questions at all for Jonathan?
I see Michael's hand up.
Oh, it's a split screen. Okay, Michael.
Hi, this is Michael Beloff, council member. And Jonathan, I've seen you speak and I've seen your presentation with that first case and what happened to that poor young woman in terms of making sure that she could direct her life. Having just looked at the proposal, which kind of looks like a placeholder in terms of what Shannon sent out, in terms of what the law is going to say, one challenge we have here in Connecticut is, unlike other states, in Connecticut, for guardianship and conservatorship, you do not need an attorney. And so the cost for going through and getting guardianship or conservatorship is a $250 filing fee, and you can do it on your own without an attorney. As part of what you're proposing for Connecticut, will there be a sample to support decision-making agreement that will allow families to create one without having to go to an attorney and cost several thousands of dollars to implement this? Because I feel sometimes families may go the easy route and just say, well, we can do it ourselves on the cheap versus having to go to an attorney. And then will there be procedures to educate the professionals that we will be going to discuss our kid? If they're supported decision making, that would allow me, I'm currently my son's guardian, to then go talk to the professionals that my child would authorize me to talk to, doctors, the state, and so forth. What kind of education can be done? Because if this goes through and I have a supported decision making allowing me to support my child at a doctor, the doctor's going to say, I don't know what the heck this is, and I want a power of attorney or a guardianship so that I can talk to you. I'm sorry for that multifaceted question.
Oh, no, sir. Thank you for the question. And I can answer it this way. Yes, and yes with an exclamation point. And here's why. Number one, I can tell you with pride, with some pride, that thanks to Carol Scully with the Arc of Connecticut, we have entered into an arrangement with Yale University, where they are working with us to create a supported decision-making toolkit that will have exactly what you're talking about, a free set of resources to help people and families and professionals understand and implement supported decision-making across the lifespan. And my intention is that will include sample agreements, not just a one-size-fits-all agreement, but sample language that people can use, sample opportunities that they can take to the doctor to say, this is supported decision-making, hopefully recognized by this Connecticut state law. The second part of your question with the exclamation point, I can say with an exclamation point, is because we're currently doing it. In fact, at 6 o'clock tonight, we are having an education session on an introduction to supported decision-making, where at last count, we had more than 60 family members and professionals signed up for. It is part of a multi-part educational series that we are doing open to the public at zero cost, that will include modules on using supported decision-making in education, in employment, in healthcare, in money management, and in what I call life planning, so that people know they're not just, and as a speaker, I hate it when speakers just say, do this, and don't give people the tools to know how to do it. We on the coalition have set out and committed to make sure that people not only know what supported decision-making is, but how to use it in their lives and in the lives of their loved ones.
And I think that's great, and it's helpful. I mean, I've had one family that I worked with where they had, for a young man with autism, the family had a power of attorney, and mom went to go, she had a medical power of attorney, and mom went to go set an appointment for the child, and the medical practice said, oh, you can't do that. Your child has to go online, create a MyChart account, give you authorization with our paperwork. And I think that's been the challenge, especially with medical care, is that even when parents have had powers of attorney, the medical practices have said, well, that's great, but our lawyer said you need our paperwork. Being able to use one set of paperwork for everybody that the parents would have will be very, very helpful, assuming it's accepted.
That's part of what we're hoping to do, with your help, by the way, because we would love to be able to say, here is Connecticut's law recognizing supported decision-making. Here is our supported decision-making information. Here is our agreement, or here is how we do things. And, legislation is a critical part of that, but it is only one part of that. The other part is making sure people understand what their options are and how to implement them. And the beauty of the supported decision-making coalition is that we have been doing that for the last couple of years, and we are going to continue to do that as long as is necessary.
Can I say something, Patty? Or
So I think a few people have their hands raised, Faye. This is Shannon Giacovino, DDS ombudsperson. I had mine raised first, so I'll go first very quickly. Disability Rights Connecticut is doing supported decision-making clinics. So if there are individuals and families that are interested in putting together agreements, Disability Rights Connecticut is doing that, and those clinics are free. I will also send out information to the council, to the State Independent Living Center website, where you'll see the guides that have been created around supported decision making for, you know, various different for like school and different places. So I'll share that information with the council.
We can also share a link to today's presentation for anyone who wants to join. Gretchen, I don't have it handy, but if you could drop it in the chat, people can join, find out what it's all about, find out and join what we're hoping to be a robust question and answer session.
I did share that with this is Shannon Giacovino, DDS ombudsperson. Gretchen shared it, and I sent it in an email to everyone too. So you should have that.
Okay, this is Patty Silva, Council Chair. Thank you, Shannon. Carol has her hand up, and then Faye will go to you, okay?
Sure. Thank you, Carol Scully, the ARC of Connecticut. And Michael, I just wanted to clarify one thing that you said. Medical power of attorney, do you mean the healthcare proxy? Because power of attorney is in Connecticut, and Kathy Flaherty's here as a well-versed lawyer in this. I don't believe you can have a power of attorney over medical in Connecticut.
I meant a healthcare proxy, Michael Belloff,
Okay,
council
thanks.
member. I was using a generic term because I work with folks in a lot of different states.
Yeah, I know. It's just that I ran into this with my mom, so I'm kind of familiar with it. Thank you.
Okay, Patty Silva, Chair. Faye?
Faye Lenz, member. Jonathan, I heard you speak a little while ago, and I have to say I was probably one of the doubting Thomases in terms of not totally understanding supportive decision making. So I have a great understanding of it now. And I'm one of these people who like the spectrums of options for people and for parents and for family members to choose what's best for your child with your child's input and consent. And so I'm thrilled to have you here sharing this with us. And I'm also thrilled that you're educating so many of us on what supportive decision-making really is. And it's a different option that may be viable for families. We are our son's guardians, my husband and I, and that's worked for us. We wouldn't think about doing anything without including Danny in the decision making of whether it's where he lives or his job or buying clothes, whatever it happens to be. So I think some of us are doing some of that under guardianship, but I think this is another option that's of great value. So thank you.
This is Jonathan, and thank you, Ms. Lenz, for saying that. Like I said, you're never going to hear me say a bad word about guardianship. My godson is in guardianship, and my sister is his guardian, because that's what he needs, and that's what she chose. Like you, my sister empowers James to make his own decisions wherever he can. But there are areas where he simply cannot. That option must always be there for parents. It must, because there are people who need that. But other options should also be there that are recognized so that parents who feel that their children need them and want to use them, and most importantly, want them respected, have that choice. And that Connecticut, like the majority of other states, we hope, will say you should have that choice. Because in your words, Ms. Lenz, there should be a spectrum of choices for parents.
Thank you. Call me Faye.
My pleasure, Faye. I'm Jonathan.
Patty, Christine's hand is raised.
Hi. Christine Hainsworth Strauss, council member. I have a few questions as it refers to how do we make, okay, let me back up. My first thing is to make it easier on the families and to get as rid of as much paperwork as possible on the families constantly. So how do we make this so universal that Social Security looks at it, DSS looks at it, Husky looks at it, So I understand how this should all work, but I'm just saying, how are you making sure that every single thing is in there beforehand? Because so many times, we have guardianship of our kids. We do include them in every decision. And I have to say, one thing that I would like to turn the statistic around a little bit, as I think is a positive, and it could be used even in tonight's presentation as a thought. Um, People have talked about how many people have guardianship of their individuals here, their loved ones here in the state. We moved here from a state that did not do that. And I think that felt like a lot of people just kind of let their kids fall off the system at 18 or 21. And I think that Connecticut has an extremely high percentage of guardianship, but it also has an extremely high involvement of families that care about the individuals. And so I think that this education process is very important, and I appreciate your doing it. I really helped me to look through all the materials you sent. But how do we make this so universal across the board that should something change, is there some kind of gauge for either the people that are involved in the community that are supported decision making, and or the God forbid some accident happens and the people are all gone. How do you preserve that continuity, and how would you then, if necessary, move it to guardianship if something happened for the individual?
Again, this is Jonathan, and Christine, thank you for your questions. And I'm terrible with names, so please forgive my familiarity. Christine is what's on screen. I almost called you Ms. Guest. So the answer to your question is by doing the work, by doing the education, by getting the materials out there. There's nothing that has universal knowledge that didn't start with a small group of people committing to get that knowledge out there. There was a time when representative payees in Social Security were brand new and no one understood it. Banks didn't understand it. There was a need to do outreach to explain to the banks what a rep payee is. There was a time when person-centered planning for Medicaid waivers was a completely new concept. Now we see things like charting the life course, which are brand new, but now beginning to break through. So the really simplistic answer to your question is that we do it by helping people, by getting information out there, by having the clinics like Disability Rights Connecticut are having, by creating educational materials and toolkits like we're doing, so that parents understand. And the second part is we do it by deputizing you. Because and I know that you have guardianship of your children, and that's wonderful. Supported decision making works in a guardianship too. I know this because you're doing it. You help your child make as many decisions as possible. So we do it by asking people like you and Faye and everyone on this call to talk about it. Hey, have you thought about this? Have you considered this? Have you seen this link? That's the way information gets out there. I always joke about the old commercial for Pert shampoo. If I tell two friends and they tell two friends and so on, that's how information gets out. There is never, ever a guarantee. I can't guarantee you everyone knows about guardianship, but I can guarantee you there are people like you, like Gretchen Knopf, like Carol Scully, like every member on this committee who is intrigued by this idea, who can talk about it, who can make sure that information gets out. So that if I don't know about it, someone I know does, and someone will help me get there. And the last part of your question about how do we make sure if everything falls apart that guardianship is an option, is that guardianship's always an option and guardianship always should be an option. There are lots of good materials out there. As Mr. Bailoff pointed out, Connecticut has a very user-friendly guardianship system where people, if need be, can seek guardianship when necessary. And I think that, as Faye said, guardianship should always be part of the spectrum of options, something I'm going to talk about at 6 o'clock tonight. So we get there, in short, by doing the work. One person, one group, one committee at a time, and trusting those groups and committees to do the same.
Okay, Patty Silva, Council Chair. Thank you, Jonathan. I see that Fran has joined the call. Hi, Fran. Would you like to speak now? You just have to unmute. We can't hear you, Fran. You have to unmute.
This is Shannon Giacovino, DDS. I'm Bud's person. It looks like Fran is having a hard time unmuting. I don't see a box for him. I see him in the
He's
very
on the-
strange together mode thing, but I don't see.
I can see him, but he's, all right, it looks like he's unmuted, but we're still not hearing him.
Hmm.
And then now
He just left.
he might be, he might,
Yeah, let's
Maybe-
see if he
Yeah,
comes back in.
Let me see if he texts.
all right, looks like he's coming back in. All right, try to unmute again, Fran. Still can't hear him. Oh, can't hear you.
This is Shannon Giacovino, DDS. I'm Bud's person. I know Fran is hopping in. He's up at the LOB right now testifying on some bills. And so, Fran, I know you've got other things to do and, you know, we appreciate you coming, but I don't want to keep you if you have to testify and make you try to figure out this technical stuff.
You can also try to come back in a little bit later on if you want. Does that sound okay? Okay, great. All right. I hope we get to hear from you. All right, we're just going to move on. This is Patty Silva, Council Chair. Oh, I see that Jordan has his hand up.
Yeah, I put it up to try and assist, and then Shannon did it, so I'll take it down.
Okay. And I think Christine, you have to take yours down as well. And okay, we should be good now. Oh, Carol, you have yours up. Is that Legacy? Okay. All right, great. Okay. Well, Jonathan, thank you so very much for sharing this information with us. I think it's something that the council will need to, you know, have a conversation about and talk amongst the membership. And I know that you've asked for our support. So we, you know, would like to have conversations about that. So we wouldn't really be making a decision tonight, but we can definitely let you know once we've had a chance to discuss this.
Thank you. It's been my honor. And if I can ever be of assistance to the council, please feel free to reach out.
Great. And thank you again so much for all the information. We really appreciate it. And we'll still keep an ear out for Fran. So, all right. Okay. Moving on. Just the monthly reminder that anything from our previous meetings, draft, transcript, video are available on the link that's on the agenda, but it's also on the DDS website under, you know, under the council. So next on the agenda is Shannon's ombudsperson report.
Hi, everyone. This is Shannon Giacovino, DDS ombudsperson. Before I get to the report, I just wanted to just to clarify for everyone that the Supported Decision-Making Coalition in Connecticut includes a lot of organizations and people that people on the council are familiar with. The ARC Connecticut is on the coalition, the Council on Developmental Services, the State Independent Living Centers, Disability Rights Connecticut, and I'm a member of the coalition as well. And so Jonathan has been working with us. He's worked with other states. He's been a tremendous help to us in sort of guiding our work. But, you know, this is something that is happening here in Connecticut. And it's something that, you know, I'm hoping that that all of us and our community leaders in our community will embrace. You know, we supported decision making is not something that is currently being supported by the probate courts. The probate court administrator doesn't feel that it's necessary to have supported decision making recognized in our statutes. 29 other states would disagree with that, and so does our coalition. And so, we do have legislation this year. I shared the bill with everyone, but this isn't going to happen unless I think people in our community and leaders in our community all get behind it and speak with one voice, saying that, we think families in Connecticut and individuals in Connecticut should have, the same list of options that people have in the majority of other states in the country. I know that you all know that I've included in every report for at least probably the past couple of years that, I am concerned that Connecticut is an outlier when it comes to guardianship. And that's not because I don't agree with guardianship, but it's because, I think that there are people who don't need to have guardians, and we need to make that an option for people who don't need to have guardians. We should have, like Faye said, we should have the full spectrum of options here in Connecticut like people do in other places. So I hope the council will consider it. And I know that members of the coalition would be happy to come back in, answer any questions, do any kind of presentations that people here think they need. And I would encourage people, because I know it's new to some people. There are people who have doubts, there are people who have concerns. And I think that, the way that we get through that is together, and it's by talking about those things. So thank you for listening tonight. I sent my report out last night. I haven't received any questions, and so I don't have anything additional to add unless anybody has any questions about the report I sent.
Patty Silva, Council Chair. Any questions for Shannon on her report?
This is Shannon Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson. I see that Christine has her hand raised.
Hi, Christine Hainsworth-Strauss, council member. Shannon, I'm sorry if I've missed something. I've been under the weather and I'm just getting back on top. And what I'm wondering is, aren't the probate courts are all set up by small geographic stations in the state, right? So is that determined by each one, or is there going to be, I guess I don't understand. Let me back up. I'm not opposed to this and I really appreciate learning more about it. Okay. I think that it's not appropriate for everyone, but I can see where cases would definitely be appropriate. So I guess what I understand is, how do we make this so people can access it and then not be so geographically distributed? I don't know how to say that.
Yeah, that's this is Shannon Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson. I think the first step to doing that is getting this legislation passed, because like Jonathan said, right now, it really depends on where you live and what judge you're dealing with. And Jonathan, do you want to, answer that question? Because Jonathan is better at answering these kinds of questions than I am.
Actually, I think you just answered it better than I could. This is Jonathan speaking, but that's the entire point of needing a law. A statewide law would ensure statewide coverage. It would ensure statewide opportunity and statewide options. As we spoke about earlier, there's still, of course, a need for statewide education to make sure people are aware of the law. But if there was a state law that says, for example, we recognize supported decision-making for parents who choose that, for people who choose that, there would not be the problem of an attorney saying, I can't recommend this, or I can't help you with this, because there's no law that would allow you to do it. That would stop a judge from saying, there is no law that would allow me to order this. So legislation is a critical first piece in making sure that in every part of the state, this is an option instead of just those parts where people have heard of it.
This is Shannon Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson. I know other people have their hands raised, but Christine, I think you want to follow up on your question.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to clarify, and I'm sorry again if I'm not making this all clear tonight, but I'm wondering, who did you say was opposed to it from the probate court?
So
this is statewide?
Yeah, this is Shannon Giacovino, DDS ombudsperson. I don't fully understand how the probate court system works, in Connecticut. But yes, individual judges are elected, but they have, there's a probate court administrator who has met with our group. And, and we've also met, by the way, with individual judges. And so we've met with judges who are supportive. But I think the probate court administrator, from my understanding, is sort of the representative for the probate courts in Connecticut, and she communicates with the legislature on behalf of those courts. And so while we've met individual judges who are supportive and members of the coalition who are attorneys have done presentations for probate court judges, the probate court administrator at this time doesn't feel that the law is necessary. So that's where things stand.
Not an official statement as to why.
Well, you'd probably have to ask her that.
Yeah, let's just,
I can
Okay.
probably hazard a guess. This
Sure,
is
go
Jonathan,
ahead,
because I hear this in many states. What I hear in many states is that there's nothing stopping someone from using supported decision making in Connecticut's law. Connecticut's law does not specifically say that supported decision making is recognized, but it does not specifically say that it's not. Therefore, if you know about it and you are working with an attorney who knows about it, and you are before a judge who knows about it, then there would be no reason for a law to specifically recognize it. And I have had judges in every state I've worked say, but there's nothing stopping this in the law. And my answer is, if you speak with parents, if you speak with people with disabilities, if you speak with attorneys, they will tell you almost uniformly, without something in the law, there's no way we can depend upon this being recognized, and therefore we are afraid to use it. So I think what judges would say is there's nothing stopping it. What I would answer is the experience of thousands of parents and people with disabilities and the opinions of over half the states, including almost all of your neighbors, would disagree.
Just a moment, Patty, Council Chair. I just want to be mindful of the time for the rest of the meeting because we do have some other things that we have to get to. And if anybody would like to learn more about this, I'm sure that Jonathan would be happy, or even Shannon, to answer more questions. If we have really quick ones, we can finish this out, but we do need to move on. So I think we had, let's see.
This is Shannon Giacovino, DDS ombudsperson. I did send everybody, there is going to be a list of meetings, and I would encourage people to go. And Deidre had her hand raised.
She does, yep.
Deidre had her hand raised first, Adrian.
Just real quickly.
Adrian, Deidre had her hand raised first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Deidre, Tool Council. I had just a follow-up question for Shannon about your report, but do we want to do that right now?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I did send you a question, but and I apologize you didn't get it, but I just wanted you very, very briefly, if you could just tell me, one of the things you said, 12 individuals said they were having some issues understanding and navigating the GDS system. And I didn't know if you could just very briefly tell me what those issues were. Were they all different issues, understanding and navigating? I just was curious what those were.
So this is Shannon Giacovino, DDS ombudsperson. They are all different issues, and a lot of things that come my way. A lot of people reach out to me because they're having a difficulty understanding, a process at DDS, or if they, there were a couple times this month where people disagreed with decisions that were made by DDS, and, informing them about their right to request a programmatic administrative review. So, a lot of the calls that I get involved more than one thing on this list, but many calls often involve really kind of understanding how things work. That's often kind of the first step with people, is really kind of helping them to understand the context of the situation that they're dealing with.
So then in the navigating the system, are you talking about people that are doing, like, applying for the first time? Is there more people that are already?
Well, there are
eligible?
some people who reach out with eligibility issues. There are some people who are reaching out who are currently receiving services. Yeah.
But there's no like huge group that's just one issue. Like you would bring that up if it was something, one
No,
person.
I mean, I think probably that is probably a broader issue, but there are other issues on my report that, like eligibility, right? There are people who are reaching out specifically about eligibility. So there might be other things that are more specific, but, this kind of it could encompass anything, anytime someone reaches out, often, where we start is them just sort of understanding some basic things about the system because it's complex, right? DDS is a complex system, and I literally learn like something new almost every day about DDS. I think I could do this job for another 10 years and still not understand anything. I don't know how you do it, Jordan, and how your staff does it, but as much as I learn, I just know that there's, I'm never going to know it all. So
I appreciate
yeah.
your report, and I appreciate that answer. It is complex, and as we all know, things change year to year too. So I think parents just start to get it, and then sometimes over the years things change, and then
Yeah.
it's very overwhelming for those parents,
Yeah.
especially the initiation, the eligibility. I find that's very overwhelming. So
Yeah.
thank you for that answer. I appreciate it. I guess it's unique to the
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, no problem. This is Shannon Giacovino, DDSM Buds person. A good example of that is, when paid caregiver became, a possibility for people. There were a lot of people who, even after talking to their case managers and stuff, reached out to me to ask some questions or to verify information that they had gotten from, people in DDS. And so that's kind of an example of, something like that. So,
Thank you.
so
I
thanks.
appreciate your time. Thanks.
This is Shannon Giacovino, DDSM Buds person. Sorry, Adrian, your turn.
This is Adrian Benjamin, a council member. I assume you have a law that's being proposed that's available, that's currently going before the House and the Senate. Is there a supported
This is Shannon
decision-making law?
Giacovino, DDSM Buds person. The email that I sent to you had a link to the legislation.
Okay, so
Yep.
if this legislation passes, all the probate forms will be different and they'll have your choices, including supported decision-making. So families will see that. And it sounds like you have a very broad coalition working on this. I don't think there's any reason to panic. I mean, if the judges have so much power, they're going to ban it. It's not going to pass the legislation. That's another issue. But it doesn't sound like it's going to be that complicated for people to me, because, I mean, I just redid my daughter's guardianship. She's extremely disabled, and there's no question about it. As long as there's all the options, that's fine. And I don't mean to go on and on about this, but I hear so much worry about it. I don't think there's a lot to worry about. The probate form will have the information, and they can talk to whoever they need to talk about it, their case manager from DDS, and I think it'll go forward. That's all.
Thank you.
This is Jonathan Martinez, and thank you, ma'am, for that. Again, Connecticut would not be the first state to implement this. They would not even be the 24th state to implement this. So there hasn't been a mass panic in other states. In fact, this has been going on for over a decade in some states. So I agree with you. I think we can lean on the experience of others and continue to do the good work we've been doing.
Okay, this is Patty Silva, Council Chair. Gretchen, I see you have your hand up. And then we really need to move on.
Gretchen Knopf, I'm a member of the Supported Decision-Making Coalition. The law doesn't really contemplate having to go to probate court. It's one of the beautiful things about it is that you do not have to go to probate court. That if you do a supported decision-making agreement, that there may be templates and there are ways to get help, but the involvement of the probate court's not necessary because you're not actually taking away someone's civil rights. You're setting up ways for them to be supported without going through the probate court process.
Thank you, Gretchen. This is Patty Silva, Council Chair. we are going to move on. Thank you all very much. And I think everybody knows that you can contact Jonathan or Gretchen or Shannon or Carol with any questions about this, and go back in your email and look for the information that Shannon had sent. It was pretty comprehensive. Thank you again. Next up, we have the commissioner's update. Jordan?
Good afternoon or evening. The last month since I've seen you last, it's been a little crazy in a lot of different ways. We have always referred to the legislative season, those of us in the state agencies, as the silly season, because there's a lot of questions and a lot of busyness, and you're trying to answer all the questions and respond to all the bill proposals, and they, as you know, they come out in the hundreds. And this year a little more complicated because the federal landscape is changing so rapidly. So what I wish to tell you is that I don't have a lot of answers for all the questions you may have about either what's going on currently here in the state or at the federal level. But as I learn things that I think are important to you, I'll be sure to share them. So if I know things, I've gotten some questions from you all and lots of other people about the changes at Medicaid and Medicare, and that's an evolving situation, and we don't know what that may mean and if and when it will mean anything. And we're in a position now where the governor has proposed his budget here in the state, and now all the other work that the legislature needs to do. So my testimony for tomorrow isn't public yet. You'll be able to, I believe I'm at 11 o'clock tomorrow at the LOB. And I will continue my commitment to showing up during the evening, at least for a portion of time, during the public comment, which I believe starts at 4. So some of you and some of your friends, I hope to see tomorrow over at the LOB. We don't have a bill number yet for our agency bill, but it should be coming in the next day or so. And we actually have a whole bill tracker as we are learning of bills that may or may not touch our business. And I know that some of you have asked for that. We will be looking to get that to you as soon as we have it put together. I think Jill was working on that still. Because we learn about things that are happening related to us that aren't out of our committee of cognizance, and we stumble on them. So some of you have given us some tips to some things going on in other committees, and we appreciate all the eyes and ears we have on all of that. So other than trying to breathe and keep my head above water with the incredible amount of information going back and forth and in every which direction, we continue in what I've advised staff is to keep their head down and moving forward as though nothing's changing until something changes, or until we know something's going to change, and just trying to keep spirits and morale up as government employees at the federal level are under attack. State employees feel the residuals of that. So it's a tough environment knowing that our partners out at the federal level are struggling with that. Patty, do you have your hand up?
I do. Patty Silva, Council Chair. I just found out today that the appropriations hearing is tomorrow. So we are not prepared. Typically we would, get a gist of what your testimony would be, and we'd put something together, and several of us would go and we would testify. But like I said, we literally just found out today. So I'm kind of concerned about that we did not know, weren't notified. I feel like, that's something that's slipped by us, and it shouldn't have. So not sure, what to do about it. And 4 o'clock is a tough time for, to try to get there for the public part of it. So, I wish that we had known.
I'm sorry that you didn't, and we'll discuss internally and figure out how to prevent it from happening next time. Although 3 or 4 o'clock has been the start time for public comment for the last number of years. So that they used to start right after, like 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they haven't done that since at least the start of COVID. It's been 3 or 4, and almost always on a Friday.
Okay.
I could also, Kevin Bronson, DDS, I could also add that OPM reviews and approves all of our testimony. And OPM has had an extraordinary amount of one testimony, but two reports that have been due to the legislature or just across the board. So they've been a little delayed. So we just got approval today, and it got submitted to the appropriations. So it should be up whenever they post it. So later today or tomorrow morning.
Adrian, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was going to complain about that too. Today at 3 o'clock was the last chance to testify, to register to testify at appropriations. Now, our friend and former council member, Rick Rothstein, who we call Mr. Google, and I communicate a lot, and he informed me several days ago about the approps hearing and when it was. So I was able to get on. And I also found out about today there was a labor hearing about 14C and an
Yes.
attempt to get rid of 14C. And I'm just really, I feel like for the reason we're here is to advise the legislators and our commissioner and the governor about these issues. But if we don't know about things, we can't advise. So please let us know ASAP when you hear there's a public hearing on a public health or human services, because that's us, right? I did send I don't know if you got my message, Faye, yesterday, that there was a hearing today about 14C and the attempt to get rid of sub-minimum wage, because I know you gave a wonderful speech last year about that at
Yeah.
Family Hearing Day that it knocked my socks off. It was such a good speech. So we really, please let us know as soon as you can about these things.
I
Okay.
seem to have lost my visual.
Oh, we saw you though.
You saw me?
And your name's Patricia?
I am. But I don't know why I can see me, but nobody else.
We can
Everyone
see
else-
you.
Okay. Adrian,
So-
thank you. I just found out about it too. And a number of people, it's almost like they didn't want us to know. I hate to say that, but it's frustrating. Not you, Jordan. I don't mean DDS. I just meant
No, but
it coming out the way it did and trying to scurry and get people to get some
Yeah.
testimony in is just.
Yeah.
I
And
don't think it's fair.
the announcement of some of these hearings occurred over a span where there were 2 state holidays as well. And I'm not making excuses, but it has made the time crunch on some of these and the late announcements of them even harder. The only other thing I was actually going to ask Kevin to talk a little bit about one of our other endeavors, and he can cover the legislative updates as well. But with the we're doing a marketing campaign. I've talked a lot over the last year about the workforce crisis and the impact it has on the wait list and access and any number of things. So we have been working, and Kevin has been working alongside a lot of the other efforts going on about a direct support professional marketing campaign. It dovetails with the work that others within the agency and within the state are doing. And Kevin, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I don't know if Adrian had her hand up for something else, but I can go.
yeah, it sort of bleeds into the legislative discussion, which is next, so I can wait.
Okay.
All right, Kevin Bronson, DDS.
Thank you.
So, we're looking, as the commissioner said, to help build out the direct care workforce in the private sector. Lose my mind today. In the private sector, and one of the things is as you said, a marketing campaign, and also developing, a job board for providers to be able to centrally post all of their their direct care jobs. So people, when they see this marketing or any sort of stuff, they can drive to this one website where it has a list of jobs that the private providers provide, and they can go directly to an email that the provider puts up, or their own recruitment page, or a link directly to the job posting application or something like that. So the idea is really to work with we're working with consultant on a trusted messenger campaign. It focuses on basically training community leaders on what direct care or direct support professionals do, and how it's a fulfilling, rewarding job for certain people, and if they're interested in potentially changing their career or looking at direct care, or I don't know what the low level nursing is. I always screw it up. I think it's LPN. And LPN, those sorts of things. The idea is to draw people into the providers to increase the workforce. So you should be seeing, and we're going to be running it's with spending with ARPA dollars. So we're working on it. The hope is that everything's going to go live in April, and it will run for 2 months, because that's all we have the money for until the ARPA period ends. And you'll probably see some radio ads, billboards, and that sort of stuff. And then it tagging on with the trusted messenger piece, where we train community leaders to go out and speak about the DSP workforce. So I don't have anything to share with you yet, because we're still finalizing designs and all that other sort of stuff. But those that are our providers on this call will get a peek at it at the DDS provider meeting on the 27th, because that's the time that we're planning on having everything final by. And I will. Oh, and the other thing to mention is that the branding on all of this is going to be not state branding. It's going to be neutral branding, so providers should be able to utilize it themselves.
Good.
And I think that covers the DSP marketing campaign. I'm happy to take questions on that specifically if you'd like. Perfect.
Okay, Patty Silva, Council Chair. Was there anything else, Kevin?
I mean, the commissioner mentioned the legislative stuff. I think this year is, like the commissioner said, it's been slow and busy. By this time, I think we thought a month ago our agency bill would be out. But it's sounding like our agency bill is going to be coming out hopefully in the next couple days. And there's a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not, but the rumor is that the public hearing will be on March 3rd for our agency bill. So I can give you, but I'm not sure if that's just what I heard. So take that at face value. And I don't really have much more than that. I think, once the commissioner testifies on Friday, and appropriations closes down their, interview, meeting with all of the agencies, I think we'll find out a lot more. Adriana, sorry, Patty, Adriana.
Thank you, Kevin. Adriana Ramirez, council member and family member. I have a question, but I put the Commissioner Chef's testimony is up, so I put a link to it so everybody could read it. And then about the DSP, I might have missed it, but those videos, does that also include a version of where, because we have DSPs through providers, but then we have self-direction too. Is the video geared for self-direction as well, like that home-based?
The videos are geared towards educating people about the DSP workforce. It's not directly for providers, but it's going to be featuring providers. I'm 90% sure it doesn't talk about self-direction, but that doesn't mean that at some point in time we can utilize the job board to for that. And there's no reason why the marketing stuff can't be for that sort of stuff too, but this is more directed to help the private providers was the intention.
Thank you. No, because I know there's like a crisis on both ends. I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, there's because they're doing, I think they're doing something else, or maybe not. I'm not sure, but this is specifically for the providers. Adrian.
Okay, I know I was harsh with my statement and I apologize for that. I'm just very frustrated about this problem, but I know it's going to be corrected. One thing, I don't know, I mean, when the governor's budget first came out, it looked like there was a 3% increase, which still is not enough, but it was like, at least there's an increase and not zero. So then the legislators could like fight for more. But it turns out it's a decrease. And I don't know if everyone is aware of that. So the budget is decreasing for us, for the group homes, for the nonprofits. And I don't have the exact number. An agency called Elibis has a statement out that it's a $19 million reduction. But then I read that it's a $19 million reduction for all the nonprofits. So I don't know how much the reduction is, but we don't need a reduction. One of the problems, we need an increase. One of the problems with hiring DSPs is the pay rate, and we know that because when some agencies have increased, they hire more people. They are able to hire more people. That happened at HARC. So that's one question. If people can't go testify tomorrow because they haven't had a chance to sign up, you can still call your legislators and say, make sure, please fight for an increase in our budget. There's waiting lists, there's a lot of challenges. And I hope people, will do that, contact their legislators or, and the governor. The other thing is,
Adrian, can I just stop you right there for 1 second?
sure.
Kevin Bronson, DDS. So the deadline is for in-person testimony. That shouldn't stop people from still submitting testimony because they'll go and post it under the bill.
Yes, that's a good point. You can write testimony.
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to
very
clarify
good. No,
that.
I'm glad you brought that. Up. That's a good point. And it's also hybrid. So you can, well, if you are signed up to testify, you can do it at home or there. The other thing is I had last month and actually the previous month, I asked if there was a possibility to get an updated lawn chart. The legislators like looking at those. I think that it gives legislators who don't know that much about our world just a sense of who our clientele is, who our participants are. And the level of need is not everything, but it's some information. So is there any chance between now and tomorrow?
Adrian, I can send that out to everyone.
There's an updated lawn chart?
I believe we found the most updated copy, so I will send that over to you.
Thank
and
you.
to the group as well, yeah.
Yeah, then I can make copies and bring it tomorrow. That would be amazing. Thank you. I'm impressed.
It'll be the most recent one we have. I don't know how recent it is. Jordan
Well,
Sheff,
2019 is the only one I've got. And I still give it out if that's all I've got, because it's still relatively relevant. Okay. Thank y'all.
Okay, just really quick, I see that Faye has her hand up, and I also know that Kevin has to leave the meeting in a few minutes. So he was going to give a portion of our legislative breakfast awards
Right.
spiel. So Faye, is it possible that we could move on to that and come back to your question? Because we are getting really pressed for time, so.
Yeah, my question wasn't for Kevin anyway, it was for Jordan, so go ahead.
Okay, all right, we can come back to it. I just want to make sure that we
That's
catch
fine.
Kevin before he leaves. So Kevin, do you want to go right ahead and give your update, and then I can fill in the rest?
Sure,
Sure,
thank you. This is Kevin Zingler, council member, and I apologize for me having to leave, and I appreciate the council's combination here to let me go quickly. So first thing we got to do, the committee, we have a subcommittee, and we discussed the legislative breakfast. We reached out to the legislature to find out what dates are available. We're looking for the second floor atrium in the LOB, which is Legislative Office Building, where the Hall of Fame is, the Connecticut Hall of Fame. On a Wednesday is what we've been identified as the best possible day. And we've been giving a couple different dates. So April 2nd is available, April 16th is available, April 23rd is available, April 30th is available, May 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th. In talking with some folks up at the Capitol, they would recommend that we shoot for the 23rd of April or the 30th of April. They feel that as you get towards May, they usually have late night sessions, and sometimes they don't kick the session until or start the next day session on Wednesdays until 2 in the afternoon. And if we're having some day 8 in the morning, people are going to show up. So you got a better chance on the 23rd of April or the 30th of April of getting maximum exposure. So that would be my recommendation. They are available as of right now. They recommended that if we were interested in this, we fill out the paperwork. I know, Wes, you have that information, but we just got to pin down a date, and maybe they recommended having a primary date and a backup date. So I guess I'm proposing to the council in a roundabout way, April 23rd as our primary and April 30th as our backup date, if that works for folks in the room, calendar-wise.
Patty Silva, Council Chair. I think that's a good idea. And does anybody want to make a motion that we vote on those dates?
The 23rd and the 30th, sorry. There were so many dates given.
April
23rd and the 3rd.
As the primary and the 30th as the backup. So does somebody want to make a motion? Christine? You're muted.
Patty, Kevin, this is Kevin Ziegler, council member. I don't know if we want to just get Kevin Bronson and Jordan. Does that work for you guys? Because we obviously want you guys in DDS to be there. And then also from a legislative perspective, Kevin's probably in the trenches more than any of us in the room. What are your thoughts on those two dates?
Kevin Bronson, DDS, just quickly looking at it, I'm assuming, and I would, when you're talking with Wes, she actually is the keeper of the commissioner's calendar, but it looks free right now.
Which two dates?
The 23rd and the 30th of April.
Of
April. My only recommendation would be potentially doing it later. Like you said, I would almost do like a 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock breakfast, something like that, if that's possible. 9:30, you know what I mean? 8 o'clock's kind of early.
Yeah, no, this is Kevin Ziegler, council member. I think that the committee discussed doing awards at 9:30 before any business or hearings or testimony and all that jazz. So when I said 8 o'clock, I just meant that's what time we usually show up to set up and make sure things are in order, that type of deal.
Sure.
So this is Patty Silva, Council Chair. Wes, are you able to check the commissioner's calendar?
Yes, I can do that.
Yeah, I'm on vacation the week before the 23rd.
Yeah, I think Jordan, that's a school week, right? Everyone's on like that's usually the school's vacation.
Yeah, I usually don't go anywhere, but I am this year.
Yeah, no. So do we have a motion? I can't remember.
Are we in consensus, or because I'll move as soon as we're in consensus?
It's Patty Silva, Council Chair. I was just waiting to hear from Wes about.
I just wanted to know if you could give me those dates again. I needed the backup date mainly.
April 23rd and April 30th.
Thank you.
Kevin Bronson, DDS West, they look clear, so.
Perfect.
Yeah, that should be.
Okay.
But yeah,
so
Kevin.
Christine Hainsworth Strauss, I move that we attempt to have our breakfast on April 23rd and with a backup date of April 30th.
Second.
Floor atrium.
Second.
All right, so we had Christine and Adrian, and so all in favor? say aye.
Aye.
Any No opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. So we will shoot for the 23rd with a backup date of the 30th. And thank you, Kevin, for that. I know that you've got a scoop. I can fill in a little bit more about what we talked about at the meeting. We
Great.
held it on February 3rd. It was myself, Kevin, Damian, Pam, and Faye. And we did come up with, bye, Kevin, thank you. We did come up with some categories for the awards. Self-advocacy, which we had before, business champion, which we have had before as well, and legislative champions. And then we kind of came up with a new type of a category. It's called innovative. This is what we think we'll call it, as long as you guys think it's okay. Innovative initiatives. And there would be like 3 subcategories in that. One would have to do with employment. Another would have to do with community living. And the other would have to do with enhancing independence. So we wanted to kind of just throw that out there and see what you guys thought about it. And, you know, the thought we were talking about how, you know, there have been so many developments with supportive housing and you know, employment, you know, that's always something that, you know, we're looking to, you know, focus on and honor and, you know, hopefully develop more. So, but those were some categories we thought. We don't have set like definitions of you know, what the qualifications would be, but we were kind of steering towards that and just wanted to hear what you guys had to, you know, had to say, what your thoughts were on that. No thoughts. Okay. Okay. We'll be meeting again soon, so we can, you know, kind of. Oh, Adrian, do you have your hand up?
When you said innovation, I thought of Darlene Bore, who started these micro businesses. And well, we saw when we were at Futures last month or 2 months ago, we saw some of the things she does, helping people start their little businesses with things that they really love doing and that they could never have like managed to do on their own or in a traditional program. So she's
Right.
my favorite initiator. Or entrepreneurial initiator. So that's my
Right.
suggestion. It's a great idea.
Okay. Great. Thank you for that. And committee will meet again and we'll come back with a little bit more information. If anybody has anything in the meantime they wanted to share, please feel free. I am going to turn it back over to Faye because she had a question for the commissioner. So I didn't want to bypass that any longer. Faye, are you?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I apologize. I went down. I lost everything. So Commissioner, I didn't hear your whole report and I apologize for that. You may have covered this, but I read your testimony for the 14C and I'm just wondering, I thought it was really good because you covered everything, but I couldn't figure out, and this might be my ignorance, if you were saying that DDS was in favor of doing away with the 14C or you were in favor of it being part of, we were using the word spectrum, of a spectrum of jobs that fill a need for individuals.
I think our intent in that testimony is to convey that we understand the direction things are going nationally, but to make a sudden change would have an impact on a number of people. And we do not have, while we've been over a number of years reducing workshops, eliminating workshops, reducing the number of providers that operate 14Cs. I think we're down to 8. I forget off the top of my head. We had been at dozens. And then we got down to a smaller number. Then I think we're at 8, maybe 10. That we need time to transition and to develop plans to make sure that everyone isn't harmed in the process. So we have testified neutrally, I think is the technical term,
Is that-
advising the legislature that the spirit of the bill, while well-intended, is typically the type of thing I say, while well-intended, creates some challenges for a number of people involved in the system, and we would need a phase-in sort of way to get there. I think that's the essence of it, but that we're testifying neutrally on it. And that we recognize in the testimony that there are people on both sides of this discussion that I represent among those 17,000, and that they all have a voice and a right to make choices about how they live. So I think that's where we landed, Faye.
Okay, that helps me. Do you also know how many people with disability are working with 14Cs? Like originally it was like 1,500. I don't know what it is down
It's a
to at
much
this-
smaller number now. I don't know. I can get it, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
I know.
Okay. And Adrian knows. And I had just had one other question, and that was, is there a movement if they do away with 14C? And I profess in true transparency, our son is one of those who has that type of a job outside. It's not a workshop and it's nothing, it is a job. And he gets paid for it. And it helps him with his living expenses, and he takes a lot of pride in it. And I think that's partly what my testimony was last year, is with nothing for our kids to go to yet, why would we do away with something that gives them respect and dignity and pride in what they're doing? Thank you. Go ahead.
You are welcome, and we have tried to express to some of the proponents of the bill that for some people it is a meaningful choice to engage in that work, and that that there is a difference between a workshop and a sub-minimum wage certificate.
Right.
And sometimes they occur in the same place, and sometimes they don't, because there are workshops that pay better than minimum wage if you're hitting a kick press and making stamped soap, or if you are working in a factory that does tool and die cutting. You're working in a workshop. You're earning $35 an hour. And some of the people we support, particularly those on the autism spectrum who really love repetitive tasks, who thrive, outperform in numbers in those workshops. But that looks very different than a sheltered workshop, and that may look very different than the way your son earns money on sub-minimum wage. So we have tried, although we've struggled, to help people understand while we understand that the Venn diagram of shelter workshops and sub-minimum wage certificates, that they are not universally the same.
And, that's a good distinction. And I don't think most of us know that there are 3 different phases in that, workshops, sub-minimal wage, and then what was the third one?
Sheltered workshops is what they really mean.
Sheltered workshops. Thank you.
Yeah, sheltered workshops would be non-integrated sub-minimum wage under a roof in hiding somewhere. Is the notion, that the portrayal of them.
Right, and that sends a visual to people of a horrible thing. But thank you for clarifying some of that for me. I think it's important.
Of course.
But again, I sit on Connecticut Pie, and there's wonderful things going on for, enhanced individual working and so on and so forth. But our stumbling block is the same as what it is right now with 14C. It's like, where are the jobs? And I know some states have done away with 14C, and people are sitting home because there's no room in day programs and there's no jobs out there. And so it's going backwards instead of forward. So that's what concerns me.
Adriana Ramirez, thank you for ever being my digital assistant during these conversations, whether it's with the council or anyone else. You have a remarkable ability. She just dropped in there a link to the 14C certificate stuff in the chat, Faye. And it reads that as of February 1st of this year, I'm considering that current data, that there are 393 individuals paid under 14C.
Thank you, Adriana.
And 10 providers. Yeah, you're a rock star, Adriana. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, Patty,
Thank you.
Council Chair. I think Christine's hand is up and then Adrian.
Yep.
Hi, Christine Hainsworth Strauss, council member. Jordan, I have a couple different questions, so sorry, but one is the transportation survey has never been posted on the website. We've continued to meet. They're now advising the legislature about how to spend the money. Is it possible to get it on the survey? And is a survey possible to get on the website? And is it also, and what they are intending to propose would be helpful for people to know publicly. And is it possible for us to actually get the copy of what those survey results were that were done like a year ago?
I don't know. So I will look into all those things, but I have no answers for you in the moment.
Okay. I've
Kevin,
asked several, and they've presented a beautiful PowerPoint presentation, a few slides, lots of information. Be very helpful to know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't, Christina, Kevin Bronson, DDS. The question about the survey posting on the website, Mary Pat emailed me, and I think it's in the queue in the webmaster. So that give it a week.
Council, so we know, so we can speak to people in our various regions about what their needs
Yeah,
are.
I would say give it a week, and it'll be on the transportation page. I don't know exactly when, but
today, and I find it not just on our website, but on the DOT website either. So
yeah, I don't run the DOT website, but
okay.
yeah, but our own website, we can get it under the transportation page. And then to answer your question about the results, we can look into that because it depends on the type of like personal identified information, like all of that sort of stuff. So I don't have an answer for you yet.
Well, and I think it would be very helpful if everyone, when they do see it, could look at it, because I think that there are very obvious things that stick out. And I think this is a lot of money that's being thrown at something that I shouldn't say nobody's paying attention to, but I don't think that it's looking beyond the traditional routes and traditional means of spending. And so I think that's not necessarily solving the problem. So I really appreciate it if everyone could take a look at it and send any comments to me, that's fine. On another issue, Jordan, I just want to, it's kind of like when you see something, say something. I'm just curious if I'm the only person who's seeing this, but I have seen an increase in the last few weeks of family members' Social Security status being questioned, surveyed, changed without permissions. And I'm just wondering, I feel like all of a sudden it's a witch hunt. Ooh, I didn't say that. Recorded.
You can say that.
It feels like it. And I have to come up with two very quickly in succession with changes, and then it's changing their housing credits. It's changing their Husky situation. And I don't understand it. And I'm trying to get explanations from the phone numbers that I'm being given. I'm trying to follow the procedure, but it's all of a sudden like, what's going on?
So let me answer you in two parts. My understanding is that a portion of the data that relates to that is housed at it's a federal housing, but it happens to be in the state of Indiana, which had statewide internet issues, and there were many states and many people who couldn't access Social Security stuff for about a day and a half, but it came in a wave of executive orders that led people to believe they pulled the plug on Medicaid or on Social Security, but it was really just a server down. So there's a 24 to 36 hour period I am aware of where communication back and forth with the federal government about your benefits was a little broken for some states and some people. I'm unaware of the rest of what you described and have not heard from anybody. If you could throw together some of what you've heard and share it with Krista and me, we will in turn share it with our partners at DSS. I've been on multiple federal transition calls, and multiple agencies are represented at those meetings, and some of those representatives were at today's meeting. I haven't heard any of that. I haven't attended their daily huddles or they have been daily at around 4:30 every day. I hadn't heard any at the meetings I had attended specific to that. that doesn't mean I didn't miss it somewhere along the way. So if you can throw something together for me and Krista, we will try and see what we can find out.
And I would be happy to do that. And they've required 2 interviews in person or on calls, so this isn't just a one-shot paper mistake.
Okay. Okay.
So just curious, I want to make sure it's not a wave happening across.
Yeah. Well, and I know that they are, HHS started announcing, Health and Human Services started announcing layoffs today. And that's where all of your Medicaid and Medicare money is. And Social Security. Well, the money's at the Treasury. The people who can authorize it and do things are at HHS.
Okay.
And I have no idea how hard it is to bite my lip during these conversations. I'm gonna have a hole through my bottom lip by the time I'm done.
We're not so sure the money's still in the Treasury, but anyways, April, do you have something?
Well, I wanted to empathize with Jordan's frustration. I think we might need a moment to have a scream about all this stuff that is so absurd. The threats to our community and to so many communities. I'm sorry, I know that's not the place for this, but I'm saying what I'm saying. That's over. This should have been under legislative. I'm so sorry. When is the DSS? I thought DSS was having their meeting next Friday. The council, DSS was having the public hearing next Friday, but then I got a note that it was changed to Monday and Friday. Does anybody know what's up with that?
We can look and find out. Last Thursday, I was notified that our hearing was last Friday and I was out of state. And then we've learned that some of that information was miscommunicated. Kevin tracked it down and it was actually this Friday, but it's been chaotic. I have not kept track of DSS as I usually watch theirs because 25% of it pertains to us.
Yes.
So I usually watch their presentation, but I'm not aware of when it is. Kevin, do you have it up?
Yeah, it's are you talking about Kevin Bronson DDS. Are you talking about the DSS approps testimony? Is that what you're asking about? Yeah, so all of that, and I'm just going to drop the link in the chat, is all that's in the bulletin. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the bulletin and how it works at the CGA website. The short answer is, Adrian, it's Monday. But if you go into the bulletin and it'll list all of the agencies, the dates, the times, and the bulletin is I joke, is like the Bible if you are involved in the Capitol, where it literally tells you everything that goes on, from committee meetings to public hearings to breakfasts like the councils, right? So it's the thing that everyone looks at. That's where you can find all of your bills outside of searching for a bill tracker, that sort of stuff. So like I said, this is today's bulletin. It'll change tomorrow. It's on the front page of the CGA website.
Say that again?
The bulletin. The
Yes,
legislative bulletin, it's a daily publication by the legislature. And
how do you
online.
get to it?
Yes, it's on the CGA website, so cga.ct.gov. And if you go to session items, I believe it is, its bulletin is listed there. Or if you scroll down, it's right on the front page. And it's updated daily. Only during session, though. So every day it's a new bulletin, and that's where you can get your information, and there'll be little asterisks next to new stuff and that sort of thing. So
thank you.
This is Shannon Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson. Kevin, they post the hearings 5 days in advance, correct? So if people want to know if there's a hearing on a bill, I think it has to be posted within 5 days, correct?
correct. Kevin Bronson, DDS. Yeah, it's 5 days or it's 5 days or 7 days. I have to go back and check, but it's definitely at least 5 days. And then committee meetings are shorter. So public hearings are 5 days. Committee meetings are, I believe, more like 3. So 72 hours.
This is Shannon Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson, and I think that 5 days includes weekends, so it's important if you are looking for a piece of legislation to check the bulletin daily.
Or Kevin Bronson DDS, or you could utilize the CGA bill tracker, and there's instructions on how to do that right on the CGA website. And I believe it's also under, it's either under bills or it's under session items, one or the other. I'm not staring at the website right now.
Okay, Patty Silva, Council Chair. Adrian, is that a legacy, or you hand up again?
It occurred to me, I hope everybody knows that Tuesday, the 25th, is the IDD ARC Family Hearing Day at the legislature, starting at 10 a.m. I hope everybody knows that. It's a real opportunity for people to tell their stories and explain the challenges our system's facing and whatever you want to say. So it's in room, oh boy, I can't remember what room it's in. It's on the
It's
first
the
or
room
second.
where appropriations is.
It's Kevin Bronson.
2C?
It's in room 2C, and
Okay.
ironically, it's in the bulletin.
Good, it should be. But, not all of us can spend time looking at that. The bulletin is so full of stuff. I'm sorry to complain, but, it's, unless you're really in the know, it's still confusing because there's so many appropriations hearings. So to find what's relevant to us, just it's a little, that's why I was hoping you all would let us know in advance. But whatever, here we are.
Hey, Patty, Council Chair, are you all set, Adrian?
Oh yeah, I'll stop talking.
Okay, so we've been jumping around a little bit tonight, and I know it's been a long night. I had member directory on there just as a reminder. I sent it out to you guys. If you ever have any updates, just let me know, and then I'll resend it to everybody. And as far as topics for future meetings, I know that we're going to have to really start to get into the weeds of the legislative breakfast / awards. So I'm going to keep that on the agenda, as an ongoing item for now. And I didn't know if there was anything else that anybody was thinking about, or I know during legislative session, a lot seems to focus on that. Jordan, your hand is up.
I've been a little distracted. Jordan Sheff, DDS Commissioner. I just want to say, I don't know when Faye popped up that background, but it's been the highlight of the meeting as I just noticed it. And I wanted to thank you for bringing some brightness to my day.
I will tell you, that was by accident, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I'm gonna leave it there now that I know somebody likes it. So thank you, Jordan. I just wanted to quickly reiterate what Adrian was saying about the Family Hearing Day. And before everyone joined us, we do have almost 200 people now signed up, and which we are thrilled at, and we always have a lot that come. But it'll also be an opportunity for Siobhan to speak, who's our new executive director. And Patty, I don't know if this is the correct time or not, but yeah. I was going to throw out to the council, would you be interested in having her join us for a short period of time at our next council meeting to just hear and meet her and hear some of her thoughts of moving forward. She's very dynamic, she's very bright, and she's a breath of fresh air coming with new ideas and new ways of doing certain things. So any comments about her attending a meeting for a short period of time? Adrian's got her thumb up.
Oh, yeah. Patty, Council Chair, I think it would be great for people to, be able to be introduced to her and get to know her a little bit. So are you guys all okay with that? Okay. All right. So maybe we could invite her to the next meeting, which would be March 20th. Do you want to check on that, Faye?
I will. March 20th. I will definitely check on that. Okay.
And let me know. And if she can make it, I'll put her on the agenda.
Great. And
All
she
right.
will be coming to Family Hearing Day and speaking right at the beginning. I'm going to introduce her. So it's another way for her to meet legislators.
Okay. All right. So if there is nothing else, did anybody have anything else they wanted to share or say? Oh, Michael, is that your hand up?
Yes, Michael Beloff, council member. Commissioner Jordan, I just had a quick question. I know at the end of January or beginning of January, the report on changes to, I think we may have asked it last time, the changes to the definition of intellectual disability in Connecticut. Is there a thought on when there'll be a response to the report as to what might be next steps? I know things are crazy in terms of funding and everything right now, and it's probably not ready to be worked on. But is there a thought on when next steps for that might be in terms of research and figuring out what the cost would be and so forth?
I'm not in a position to steal OPM's thunder, but they were the designated state agency to report out on that and to work on that. And I believe they have some news to share in the days to come. And if they don't follow back up with me, but I don't want to. It has been suggested to me that I point back at OPM for now with regards to that. And so here I am doing that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Patty, council chair. Faye, is that a legacy hand?
Yep. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So our next meeting is on Thursday, March 20th, 5 o'clock here on Teams. And we had a pretty long meeting. So thank you everybody for your patience today. And if we would like to get a motion to close the meeting.
Motion to close.
Okay, Faye. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Was
So
that
for that was Faye Lenz and Deirdre Toole, Wes, for your record.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Nope, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that she had names because she's
Yes.
typing and watching and all of that.
and it is
Thank you.
6:39 p.m. So all in favor of closing out the meeting? Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? All right.
Take
All
care.
right. All right. Thank you, everybody.
you.
Bye.
Patty, bye
Take
guys.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.